Welcome to KnowledgeNest. I'm your host. This is a place where wisdom takes flight. We all have that inner child within us who's curious about everything. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why do we need to learn? Because learning is like a superpower that lets you explore the world around you and understand how things work. And when you understand things, you become wise. And wisdom is the superpower that all of us inner children are seeking. So sit back, open your mind, and get ready to learn. You can learn about anything and everything. Just ask your questions, and we'll find the answers together. This is an open book, a world of knowledge waiting for you to discover it. So spread your wings and fly high, little knowledge seeker, because here in KnowledgeNest we believe that everyone can be wise. Once upon a time, high in the mountains, where the clouds brushed against jagged cliffs and rivers roared like restless spirits, there lived an old sage. People climbed to him, not for gold, not for power, but for something far rarer in the world: wisdom. One day a weary traveler came to the sage, but this was no ordinary traveler. He was a father. His face showed strength, but his eyes, they were restless. He carried his son by the hand, a boy no older than 10. The father bowed and said, "Wise one, the world below is filled with fear. Darkness spreads on every street. Violence, lies, dangers we cannot control. My son trembles at every shadow. Tell me, how can I teach him courage in such a fearful world?" The sage studied the child silently. Then he lifted his gaze to the father. His answer would unfold not in a single word, but in a story. Long ago, the sage began, his voice echoing the wisdom of ages. There was a great war between the dragons and the griffins. The dragons, fierce and scaly, breathed fire and lived for hundreds of years. The griffins, proud and strong, could fly and had keen eyesight. They fought for many moons, each side determined to wipe the other from the face of the earth. Then came the day when the griffins got the upper hand. They cornered a young dragon in a cave, its fire extinguished, its wings torn, its life fading fast. One brave griffin, more compassionate than the rest, approached the dying dragon. It could have ended the young dragon's life right then and there, but instead it asked, "Why do you fight? Why do you breathe fire and hoard gold? Why do you live so long and cause so much pain?" The young dragon, surprised by the griffin's mercy, replied, "I fight to protect my home, to guard my treasure, to live as long as possible. Is that not the way of all creatures?" The griffin shook its head. "That is the way of fear," it said, "to live in fear and to spread fear. But there is another way, a way of peace. Would you like to see it?" The young dragon, too weak to resist, could only nod its head. The griffin spread its wings and soared into the sky, higher and higher until the young dragon could see the world from a different perspective. Below them, their battle raged on, a pointless, hateful fight. But up there, surrounded by clouds, everything looked different. The dragon saw that the griffins and the dragons in their struggle had forgotten about the beauty of the world, the sun-kissed meadows, the sparkling rivers, the trees laden with fruit. The griffin stayed with the dragon until it understood that living in fear was not the only way to be. And when the young dragon returned to its cave, it was no longer the same. It started to see the world not as an enemy to be feared, but as a place to be cherished. And so it lived the rest of its days in peace. The sage fell silent. The father pondered the story, his eyes meeting his son's. Finally he spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you, wise one. I understand now." He turned to his son and asked, "Do you want to be brave, little one?" The boy nodded, his eyes shining. "Then let us go home." The father lifted his son and together they walked away. As they climbed lower and lower, the mountains shrank into the distance, and the world below, though still filled with shadows, seemed a little less dark. For the father knew now how to teach his son courage, not by shielding him from the darkness, but by showing him the light within. Because true courage, like the bravery of the young dragon, is not the absence of fear, but the strength to rise above it. Once upon a time, a young mother brought her son to an old sage for some friendly advice. "Oh, sage," she said, "my child is all grown up, and soon it will be time for him to leave our nest and face the world on his own. But he's so naive. Life will burn him. I want to shield him from that pain." The sage looked at the worried mother and smiled. "Your son will face many fires in life, but shielding him from them is not the answer. Would you keep him locked up in a cave forever?" The mother frowned. "Of course not. But I do fear for his safety. If only there was a way to let him experience the world, but without getting hurt." The sage nodded, understanding her concern. "I can help. Would you like to watch your son become strong and wise?" The mother's eyes widened. "Of course I would." The sage then gestured for the boy to come closer. "Sit with me and watch this fire." He gathered some dry twigs and lit a small flame. The fire danced merrily, but the boy leaned back, afraid of the flickering flames. The sage smiled gently and said, "Do you see, little one? Fire can burn. If you go too close, it will hurt you badly, but it can also warm. If you sit a safe distance away, it can even cook your food. The world is much the same. There are dangers in it, but also opportunities. Fear is like fire. Left untamed, it destroys. Faced with wisdom, it becomes light." The boy thought about this for a moment. Then he slowly moved closer to the fire until he could feel its warmth on his skin. The mother watched this, a small smile playing on her lips. She understood what the sage had shown her. It wasn't about keeping her son safe from life's flames. It was about teaching him how to use fire without getting burned. He needed to learn how to face his fears and turn them into light. So when her son grew up and it was time for him to leave home, she wasn't worried. She knew he would be able to handle whatever challenges came his way. Once upon a time, a father and son were walking through the woods. They had been walking for quite a while and the boy was starting to get tired. Suddenly, the boy stopped in his tracks. He looked up at his father with wide eyes and said, "I'm scared." "Father, scared of what?" "Boy, that noise." In the distance, they heard the sound of rushing water. "Father, don't worry, my son. It's just a river. Come, let's go take a look." As they approached the river, the sound grew louder and the boy's fear grew greater. The river was wide and deep and the water was crashing over the rocks. "Boy, I can't. I'm too scared to cross." "Father, it's all right, son. I'll carry you." And the father did. He picked up his son and carried him across the river. On the other side, the boy looked back at the river. He thought about how scared he had been and how his father had saved him. Then he looked at his father and said, "Thank you, Papa. You are my hero." "Father, no, my little prince. The real hero is not the one who conquers the monster, but the one who learns to face their fears." The boy didn't understand those words, but he knew that his father was right. They continued their walk through the woods, and soon they came across a narrow stream. The water was shallow and the current was slow. "Boy, can I cross this one?" "Father, of course, my son. You're a strong swimmer, remember." "Boy, but what if I'm not? What if I'm too scared?" "Father, then I will be right here, right behind you, helping you every step of the way." So the boy took a deep breath and began to walk into the water. The water was cold, but it was also refreshing. The boy walked slowly at first, then faster. Then he was running. He felt a sense of freedom and joy as he splashed through the water. When he reached the other side, he turned back to look at his father. "Father, see, you can do it, son. You have courage." "Boy, yes, I do." It is teaching a child that they can walk through fear, with guidance, until their own steps grow steady. Once upon a time, a father and son walked into a dark cave. The boy carried a torch in his hand, but he was too scared to light it. He was afraid of the dark. The cave seemed alive with menacing shadows. Then they heard a voice. "Welcome, little ones. I am the guardian of this cave, and those who enter must face their fears or turn back." The boy wanted to run, but his father squeezed his shoulder. "Don't be scared. This is just a story to test our bravery." The voice boomed again. "So I ask you once more, Do you wish to proceed? The father said, We came prepared. He took out a small mirror and handed it to the boy. Here, my son, show me what's inside. The boy hesitated, then slowly turned the mirror towards the voice. A small flame appeared, then grew, revealing a wizened old man with kind eyes. Oh, said the boy, suddenly not scared at all. You're not a monster after all. The old man smiled. Indeed I am not, and your bravery has lit my ancient lamp. For 1,000 years, I've been cursed to live in darkness, watching the world through the eyes of animals. But you have freed me. Thank you. With a wave of his magic wand, the cave transformed into a beautiful garden. The old man continued, I am the keeper of the fourth seal, and as a reward for your bravery, I shall grant you a wish. The father said, We don't want your treasure. All we desire is to walk in peace in the light of your wisdom. The old man nodded. As you wish. Then he vanished, and the father and son walked out of the cave, hand in hand, into the light of day, no longer afraid of the dark. So the boy learned that sometimes our greatest fears turn out to be the kindest of souls, and the light of courage can shine even in the darkest of places. This is the fourth story from the Jungle Book. 4. The Mountain Path. Hours passed. The boy grew tired. His father wished to carry him, but the sage raised a hand. Sage, do not take away his struggle. The mountain does not move for us. We must climb it. Each step he takes will make his legs stronger than you imagine. Lesson 4. Parents must resist the urge to rescue children from every challenge. Struggle is not cruelty, it is the forge of courage. Once upon a time in a village at the foot of a mountain lived a poor woodcutter and his son. Every morning the woodcutter would go into the forest to chop wood, and every day his son would accompany him. One day the boy said, Father, I am tired of carrying these heavy logs. Why do we not chop down the tree first and then carry it home? The woodcutter thought for a moment. That is right, he said, but we have no axe. So they went back home, and that night the boy made a small axe out of wood. The next day he went with his father into the forest, and when they found a large tree, he said, Now watch me, father. And he chopped and chopped until the tree fell down. See, father, he cried, I told you I could do it. The woodcutter was very proud of his son. You are indeed strong, he said, but you will become stronger if you try harder. Then they left the tree where it had fallen and went back home. Every day the boy would go to the forest with his father, and every day he would chop down a bigger tree than the last. One day they came across an old, gnarled tree. It was so big that the boy needed all his strength to chop it down. He swung his axe, but instead of chopping the tree, he slipped and fell. The axe flew out of his hand and broke into 2 pieces. The woodcutter felt sorry for his son. Don't worry, he said. I will carry you and the logs home. But the boy cried, No, father, I can do it. And he started to gather the logs and carry them home, but he soon fell down again. The woodcutter rushed to his son and asked, Are you all right? Yes, father, the boy said, but I am too tired to carry all these logs. The woodcutter wanted to help his son, but the sage stopped him. Do not take away his struggle, the sage said. The mountain does not move for us. We must climb it. Each step he takes will make his legs stronger than you imagine. The woodcutter understood that the sage was right, so he left his son to his struggle, and after a while, the boy, though tired, managed to carry all the logs home. From that day on, whenever the boy went to the forest with his father, he carried even heavier loads than before. And each time he faced a challenge, he remembered the lesson the sage had taught him. 5. The Eagle Above the Cliffs. A long time ago, there was a young boy who lived high up in the mountains with his father. One day they went to see a wise old sage who lived in a hut near the edge of a cliff. As they approached, they saw an eagle perched on the edge, its wings trembling in the wind. Behind it stood another eagle, its head held high, its gaze unwavering. The boy looked at the sage and asked, Why doesn't that eagle fly away? Doesn't it know how dangerous it is to be so close to the edge? The sage turned to the boy and said, That is not a young eagle, but its mother. And she is not afraid because she knows her child is not ready to fly yet. But why does the mother let the young eagle come so close to the edge? If it falls, it will surely die, the boy asked. The sage smiled and said, "That is the only way the young eagle will learn to fly. It must feel the wind beneath its wings and the ground beneath its feet. Only then will it know how to soar." Just then, the young eagle spread its wings and leaped into the air. For a moment, it seemed as if it might actually fly. But then its wings faltered, and its body began to fall. The boy gasped, "It's falling. Why doesn't the mother help it?" But just as the young eagle was about to touch the rocks below, the mother spread her wings and let out a loud screech. Startled by her sudden movement, the young eagle spread its wings and soared into the sky, circling above the cliffs. The sage turned to the father and said, "Do you see? Had the mother eagle stopped the fall, the young eagle would never have learned to fly." So too must parents allow their children to leap, not recklessly, but with the strength you've prepared them for. The young eagle flew higher and higher, eventually disappearing from view. The father understood what the sage meant. Sometimes we have to let go of our children's hands and allow them to face the world on their own. Only then will they truly learn to fly. Once upon a time, high up on a mountain, there lived a sage. People from far and wide came to him for advice, but most of all, he was loved by children. They would sit around him in a circle and ask him, "When we grow up, we want to be brave like you. How did you become so brave?" The sage would smile and say, "Ah, that's a long story." But the children insisted, and so the sage began to speak. He spoke of a time when he too was just a boy, living at the foot of a mountain, not so different from this one. And every night, when the sun set, fear would grip his heart. Fear of the darkness, fear of the sounds of the night, fear of the unknown. One night, his fear got the better of him. He was so scared that he couldn't sleep, so he ran out of his house and into the forest at the mountain's foot. He wandered around, frightened and alone, till he came across a small hut. Taking a deep breath, he knocked on the door. A kind woman opened it, and seeing the boy's tearful face, she invited him in. She gave him warm clothes and food and a place by the fire. As the night wore on, the boy told her about his fear, about how he couldn't sleep or eat because of it. The woman listened patiently, and when the boy fell silent, she said, "You know, my son, fear is a part of life. All of us feel it, even me. But if we give in to it, let it rule our hearts, then fear becomes bigger than we are. It will stop us from doing anything." The boy thought about this. He had never thought of fear as something he could control. The woman continued, "The way to overcome fear is to face it, to befriend it. Every night when you go back home, you must pretend that you are not afraid. Even if you are, pretend that you are not. Slowly, little by little, your fear will become smaller, and one day you will wake up and realize that you are not afraid at all." The boy thanked the woman for her advice and went home that night. He was still scared, but he tried to push his fear away. He acted bravely, and slowly his fear became less. He still had some fear, but now it didn't control him anymore. And so, my dear friends, the sage ended his tale. "That is how I became brave, by facing my fear every single night." The boy thought about the sage's words. He too wanted to be brave like the sage. But how? The sage, noticing his confusion, smiled and said, "Do you want to know how you can become brave like me?" The boy nodded eagerly. "Well, first you must understand that courage is not given. It is grown. Parents must water it like a seed. Teach your child that fear is natural. Show them that every step, every shadow, every trial is a chance to grow stronger. Protect them, but do not imprison them. Walk with them, but do not walk for them. And always, always remind them that even the darkest night gives way to dawn." The father bowed deeply, tears in his eyes. He looked at his son, who now gazed at the fire not with dread, but with wonder. And so, the sage's wisdom echoes even now in every parent who dares to raise not children who avoid fear, but children who walk through it, rise above it, and light the world with their courage. That's all for today. If you like this story, please share it with someone who needs a little more courage in their life. And remember, every act of bravery begins with one parent who dares to teach it. This is the story of the sage's advice. How parents can teach courage in a fearful world. When a young boy asked his father what the secret was to not being afraid, his dad, a renowned sage, took him on a journey through the mountains to show him how to find the courage to face any fear. Along the way, they encountered a wise old woman who offered them some tea. The boy refused it, though, because he didn't want anything that could make him weak. But the sage accepted the offer and drank the tea. When the old woman asked why he didn't want any, he explained that he was scared. Then she told him that the only way to overcome fear is to befriend it. She then gave him some advice. She said that when we try to protect ourselves from fear, we give it power over us. But when we face our fears head-on, we take back control. The sage took his son on many adventures after that, and together they learned to face their fears and be brave. And that's the story. Thanks for watching Knowledge Nest. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Stay connected for more life-changing lessons. See you in the next story.